When we're talking about the distros not shipping the donation stuff yet, when eventually going to have a new version, I think Kubuntu has 6.2, but they had like a slightly older version of it, if I recall correctly.
They have 6.1.5 right now.
Hmm. Oh, I could have sworn they. Whatever, doesn't matter. They don't have the version. That's the point that I'm getting at. Um,
Yeah,
and Debian definitely doesn't.
Debian,
Debian,
yeah.
maybe I don't know if it's in SID.
Debian Sid does have it.
Okay,
That
okay,
one is 6.2.
okay.
The reason
Um,
I know this is mostly bug reports, when we get Kubuntu bug reports, they're all on 6.1.5.
right.
And when we get Debian bug reports, they're all on 5.27.5 or else 6.2.4.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um,
Quite a big gap there.
yeah. But what I was gonna get at is it's kind of hard to really say what the popularity of the donation is going to be because this year it's not just that the donation exists. It's that people are being told about the donation, people are talking about the donation. So, without seeing what it's going to look like with next year's numbers, which is going to be all the distros having it, and then
Yep.
a year after that, so you have a couple of years worth of data,
It's,
we can't
right
really know
now,
how successful it's going to be.
right now, it's pretty much an enthusiast base.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the people who I think we might have expected to already be plugged into our social media and aware that you can donate and that we do December fundraisers. But what this has shown is that there are a lot of people who sort of use enthusiast distros who still aren't very plugged into our communication. And that's totally fine, right? Nobody can afford to pay attention to everything. We live in an attention economy, and there's only so much that you can put into different things. But I will agree that once the more, for lack of a better term, mainstream distros get it,
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what happens, right?
Right,
Because
right.
these are people who tend to be even less plugged into Linux social media, more normal users, normal people, not as into the sort of tech for tech's sake, not as interested in always having the latest and greatest. So we'll see. We'll see what the effect is.
Well, this year the what I was getting at there was it's not just the prompt appears, it's people are talking about the prompt appearing. So even if you weren't going to donate from the prompt, you might be donating from people talking about the fact that they are donating because of the prompt. So it's
It's
this like double up effect.
it's a possibility, and that's kind of what I attribute the rise in donor box based
Mm-hmm.
um, donations to, because when you get to the page, there's a PayPal box and there's a donor box, and the
Mm-hmm.
PayPal box is just for a one time, and the donor box thing on that page is only for recurring donations.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of a higher bar there, and that's why I think we saw such a huge amount of PayPal early on. But then later, over time, I think more people, as you've said, have gotten to that page sort of through word of mouth and their own social media, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe some of them have been more interested in setting up recurring donations.
Mm-hmm. I know if this wasn't as successful, maybe this wouldn't have been a great question to ask. But now that it is, beforehand, what were your expectations for the prompt? Did you think it was gonna like how much of an effect did you think it was gonna have? Like a 10, 50%, 100%? Because right now it's 10x. So whatever you say is gonna be less than that.
I had no monetary expectations. I had no clue what it could possibly be. I thought that the range would be somewhere between, I don't know, 50% more and Thunderbird money, which is 100 times more,
Mm-hmm.
1,000 times more. So I deliberately went in without any expectations. My expectations were all on the communication side. I had honestly expected more complaining, and I'm quite pleased by how little complaining there is about it. So in that sense, my expectations have been exceeded.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things I did bring up before we started recording is the idea of I've heard other people mention this to me as well, doing more than a single prompt. So obviously
Mhm.
December is actually before that. Why December? Because a lot of people are kind of confused about December specifically as well.
So there are a couple reasons. The biggest reason is that we typically do our fundraising campaign in December already. And originally, the idea was that this would be a formal part of the fundraising campaign. We'd have our promo people talking about it on social media. We'd have the web page. We'd have the little slider that says how much it is, and it would all be tied together. And so with that in mind, it made sense to have the prompt in the same month that we were doing the fundraiser. This year, we decided to do it slightly differently and technically make them separate so that we could measure the performance of just the notification separately from the performance of just the fundraiser. We wanted to see which one was driving more donations. And so far, it looks like probably the donation pop-up. Other than that, I think there's kind of the general fundraising idea that like people are feeling generous in December, therefore that's when you should ask for money. This is what our promo people tell me, at least. I don't know, what's behind that or not, but it seems plausible enough.
Sure.
Although one thing I find interesting was that the conventional wisdom was that people are stingy in late summer for various reasons. And when I first developed and merged the donation notification, I wrote a blog post about it. I wanted to pre-announce it just so people were less likely to be surprised. And the result of that blog post that I wrote was lots of donations in August, in exactly the time that supposedly people are feeling most stingy and don't want to donate. And I had specific conversations with people who said, I wasn't expecting that there would be a bunch of donations in this particular month because usually there's like almost nothing. So it's possible that conventional wisdom is only partially true, or it's only part of the story. We don't know, I think it speaks to the value of experimentation a little bit, because it's easy to say, oh, well, this is the way it is. This is the way we've always done it, blah, 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 blah. But sometimes you don't know unless you change things up a little bit and are willing to take a risk and make something that's a little bit different and be willing to backtrack if it doesn't work, of course.
I'm happy you said August there, because my brain was like trying to remember what is late summer, because late summer is like right now.
Oh my gosh, I forgot you're on the upside down part of the world. Yes.
I guess it's early summer right now, but yeah. So I was like, wait, what? Yeah, middle of the year. That makes sense. Yeah. And that sort of leads into what I was gonna mention. The idea of doing, how there's the idea of like Christmas in July and all that, like obviously big corporate spend money, whatever. But like, it's an idea that people are trying to push. But you already mentioned there that surprisingly people were willing to donate around that time of the year as well. Obviously, doing a prompt every single month, that could get to a point where, if people start, you burn through that goodwill relatively quickly.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
But the addition of a second prompt in the middle of the year, I want to get your thoughts on that.
To be honest, I'm not a fan right now. I would like to play it a little bit more conservatively. I think it's really important that, number one, we don't burn through that goodwill. But number two, we aren't seen to be escalating our nagginess. We communicated once in December, just once in December. And if we then say, well, this was so successful, we've decided to stop doing it just once in December. We're now going to do it twice a year. I think that will establish a pattern in people's minds. Right. They'll say, uh-oh, does that mean
the certification of KDE?
Uh-oh, does that mean we can't trust KDE? Because they said once a year, not intrusive. And now they're going back on that promise. I don't think we want to be in that situation. Now, this is my opinion, right? This is just me. I don't make all of those decisions, but I would personally be wary about increasing the frequency, even if it would work, even if it would get us more money, because maybe it would. I don't want to burn through that goodwill. I think that's more important than money, frankly, because money comes and goes, especially in an institution. Institutions deal with huge amounts of money. You've got 50,000 euros coming in. You've got 48,000 euros going out. The sums are very large, right? Money is like, it's a form of energy, but goodwill is something that it takes years and years and years to build up. And once you've gotten rid of it, it takes even longer to get back. Right. It's like interpersonal trust, when somebody violates your trust, how long is it going to be before you trust them again? somewhere between a very long time and never, depending on who you are. And I don't want to risk that personally. That's my opinion on the matter.